Yes, guys, welcome back to the Cannon podcast. And there's a massive game ahead around the corner, Forest on Tuesday. But lads, we need to discuss some breaking news. Now, there's been two bits of breaking news, one that was real and one that was false. The real part, of course, being that Jurgen Klopp is leaving Liverpool after 9 years. It's been a massive reaction to that, of course. And, you know, the title race itself, it could have a massive impact on. But I want to go to Alex first here. Klopp leaving Liverpool, what does it mean for Arsenal this season? Because I reckon there will be an impact.
Yeah, huge news. And I think firstly, I'm gonna, and I want to quantify this because I appreciate it's a weird thing coming from an Arsenal fan. I'm gonna miss him. You know, I really like Klopp for the league. I think he's been an amazing contribution to the league. He's brought so much entertainment. I've loved his style of football at points. While Arsenal haven't been particularly good, he's been the team I've been rooting for over Man City, all those sorts of things. I think in the last couple of years, you can tell there's been a bit of an energy shift. I haven't liked the way he's spoken to certain reporters. I haven't liked the way he's spoken in certain ways. And now he's explaining maybe his energy is kind of drained. You can see that. It's not an excuse necessarily because you need to treat people nicely always. But I think you can understand why is at least a reason for it. So I think that's worth saying, because I think Klopp will be a miss for the league. But from an Arsenal perspective, I was very happy, very, very happy because, it's another sort of question out the way. Honestly, in terms of its contribution to this season, I'm worried because I think the timing of it is really interesting. He spoke about it he said he spoke to the club in November. I have my theories, which we could maybe go into about why exactly what happened, and you hear rumors behind the scenes. I do think he probably is lacking energy, and I do think he probably is feeling the stresses and strains of nearly 10 years at the top level. Equally, if Salah's off to Saudi this summer, you hear rumours about a potential behind the scenes documentary that he doesn't want to do. If he's having a look at his midfield and then looking at his forward areas and saying if there's going to be no more investment to compete with the likes of Pep and Arteta and these guys who are spending loads and loads of money or being supported, then fair enough. He's probably going to start to feel a little bit like, wow, this is another big job, and you can kind of understand it. But I think from a Liverpool perspective this season, he said it. We've got 30 games left to give Klopp essentially the send-off. And that is scary to me from a team that, and I would be lying if I said I wasn't scared, from a team that rely on those extra couple of percentages in terms of energy to get what I think is best, the crowd up at Anfield, the attacking football that they play. I think when we talk about their unsustainable style of play because it is so front-footed and trying to counter-press and being, committing 5, 6, 7 attackers forward at once. If they can get that going and beat teams 5-3 for the rest of the season because they're on that wave, yeah, I do worry personally. As I say, I don't think it's sustainable long term, and I think if he was here next season, as I say, I wouldn't be worried about Liverpool. But I do think for the rest of the season, Anfield is going to be rocking, and I am concerned.
Yeah, and 100%. I think we've seen obviously Anfield in the past, regardless of Klopp being there or not being there, it's always been a fortress, and you're right, it will push them forwards. But also, it gives Arsenal an opportunity to become the villains. It's time for Mikel Arteta to maybe win a trophy or win a title in the Pep and Klopp era. George, do you think this Arsenal team, with the players we have available, coming back maybe as well, have the ability to go and become that villainous team and almost take that moment away?
I don't know about villains because I feel like we don't have enough nasty personalities. I think I look at maybe Ben White could be somebody that you could describe as king of the dark arts in our team, but we don't have enough of those guys to really exert that influence. We are a physical team. I think I more disagree with on the impact to Liverpool. I mean, I kind of talked about it on Twitter where I actually think this was worse for Liverpool. I can't see a logic for why they would release the news at this point. I think that, Van Dijk's quotes kind of back up the idea that there's instability and there's uncertainty in the background staff. And I think that with not just the entire coaching team leaving in terms of their sporting director leaving, the vision for Liverpool is at a question mark. And to do that in the middle of the season didn't make sense to me. I feel as though if you've set yourself on leaving, you've told the owners behind the scenes, that's fine. Why make it public now in terms of what's January, in terms of the entire season is left to play? I don't understand the logic for it. And I think with, your big players like Virgil van Dijk saying, well, I don't know if I'm going to stay when Jurgen Klopp leaves. I don't think he's the only one. And I just don't see a positive benefit to making it public now for the team, this whole idea about having a rousing kind of response from a Liverpool perspective or from a perspective of one last dance kind of idea, that comes off the back of being a serial winner and winning serial times. That's not been the case for Liverpool. And I think when you start looking at the next step, the next cycle, in terms of Mohamed Salah, Trent, and Virgil van Dijk looking at their futures with 18 months left on their contract, one of those big players already casting doubt about their potential involvement, I don't see where the motivator is here, because you're basically motivating for what? You're not going to be sticking with this manager for the following season. I see a lot of demotivation potentially down the line, and I think a lot depends on their ability to sustain results, because I don't know how you respond to difficulty if you know that you don't have your biggest leader and arguably best manager since, Kenny Dalglish at the football club. And I think Klopp represented more than just being a manager. He represented a visionary to the league in terms of operating, quote unquote, in the right way, in terms of developing talent, in terms of maximizing value. And I think, when you basically have a coach saying, I've run out of steam, when a month ago he was saying that he had complete energy and he was here to stay, and there was vehement quotes, for me, something has happened. I don't think that it's as clear or as positive as what the media is trying to spin it. And I find it really perplexing that you would release it so early.
I think there is logic to the timing. I do. I think I watched that whole Klopp interview, and there's a couple of look. I think what is being said by Klopp isn't right. Isn't correct, isn't exactly what is being put across. I think it's that thing of like, he's not lying, but he's not telling the whole truth. I think, as I say, what's happened is I think he recognizes that it's going to be very, very hard to compete with City moving forward. I think that's essentially, that's
he
what
has another rebuild, right? He knows he has to rebuild the team again.
Exactly. So I think what happened is he went to them in November, and interestingly, he said in the interview two things. He said, when I was talking to my wife, there's certain private details I won't share here about why. So there are reasons he isn't sharing publicly. So we know that for a fact. He also said, I went to them in November and they said, well, when can we announce it? When can we announce it? And there's certain things that you can't do while this information is private. I think what that means is for the future. I think the owners essentially are saying, well, we need you to announce it, because we can't go and approach a Xabi Alonso. And, the moment we approach a Xabi Alonso, we know what news is like at the minute. Fabrizio Romano, straight away, Liverpool have approached this. There's going to be questions, there's going to be rumours, all these sorts of stuff. So I think what's happened is Klopp's gone, I can't do this anymore. I want to announce it maybe towards the end of the season, whatever. I think we need you to announce it sooner so we can then go and look for your replacement. But I think that plays into Liverpool's hands, because I do look at, for example, the Virgil quotes. I think that's a player saying, yeah, I don't know what happens beyond this season, but let's be clear, Virgil van Dijk and Jurgen Klopp's emotional connection and what drives Liverpool is you couldn't find many closer players or a connection between a manager and a player that feels more sort of important for football in many senses. So that's been such an important connection. Same with Trent, same with Salah. These guys, I think, I hear the kind of demotivated argument, but I think they're probably saying, look, beyond the summer, I agree with you, George. I think there's a lot of instability at Liverpool. I think it's going to be a time to rebuild. But I think before the end of the summer, all of these guys have this perfect, look, are they in 4 competitions? Let's win something for Jurgen Klopp. Let's do this for Liverpool, especially if they feel he's not going to be backed. They will know that. If they will know the real reasons. And I think the real reason is that Klopp is looking at this and saying, look, I had the energy to manage, but only if I can be supported financially to the same level. And I don't think that's what's happening. I think he's telling us between the lines. And I think the likes of Virgil, Salah, Trent, whatever, will say, look, whatever beyond this season, I don't know. But before the end of the season, let's give him that send-off that he deserves, because he's been an amazing manager for us.
Mm-hmm. And I think ultimately you got to look at it as that, you're right, it could impact Arsenal's season. It could change the way our season goes. But me and George have always been adamant this year that Arsenal, for me, are the team to win the title. George, now the news is coming that Klopp is leaving, and there could be that extra motivational factor. Players might want to prove a point. Does that make Liverpool favourites to win a title, in your opinion?
No. I kind of maintain that I feel, if I look at teams right now that have gone through a rough patch, Liverpool haven't gone through a rough patch. And what my question will always remain, if this is the supposed last dance, how do you motivate a team beyond the rough patch if there's no future, there's no stability? That, for me, never makes sense. So the ground there is really shaky, and I think it could be shaky really quick. I look at City and probably Arsenal are looking at this beautifully. I mean, you basically have your team talk ready. You're going out there to face an opponent and trying to overcome an opponent that right now doesn't believe in their project beyond the next 3-4 months. And that for me is not something that you build sustainable success on. So I think the players that come back, and ultimately, if you're an Arsenal fan, you're not looking at what Liverpool's doing. You're not looking at what City's doing. You're looking at your own yard. You're looking at fixing your own kind of issues. And I think every title challenger is going to be doing the same. I just think the entire league will step up and will say that there's a void. There's a power vacuum in terms of what manager will come to fill in. And by the way, we already see it. Xavi from Barcelona already leaving. There's a hole down in Barcelona. There is a managerial kind of hotbed. And with Jurgen Klopp out of the picture, regardless of what you think about current title potential, I think he's somebody that's really well respected in the world. And the Premier League is losing one of the biggest managers that they've had in the last several years, maybe 5 years. So there's going to be a managerial power vacuum in the world. Who steps up to go and fill it? You talk about your Xabi Alonsos. You talk about who else could come in? Julian Nagelsmann. I mean, Zidane's, De Zerbi. There are young managers, but no one necessarily proven. And I think when you start listing the top managers in the world beyond Carlo Ancelotti and Pep, Klopp's name was always synonymous with that top tier. There is somebody that's going to have to fill in the boots. And I think to loop it back to Arsenal, Mikel could look at that as an opportunity. I think that the squad is primed for a push in the second half of the season. I've maintained that. I think that the underlying metrics that we keep receiving, by the way, keep noting Arsenal in the top for far more things than I think we give them credit for in terms of box defending, in terms of even open play chance creation, being second in the Premier League, behind Liverpool by 10 open play chances. That's not the narrative that I've seen online broadly. The gap is quickly shortening. So I think it's just about Arsenal pulling through.
Counter press as well. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah. And the counter press, which again, we've been talking on the channel for how long, but I believe that the press is coming back and we're seeing these metrics pile up. So I think we've got inklings that the team is ready for a push. I think ultimately they got, in the words of Nike, just do it at this point. And you've got to start racking up those results and backing up the good play, because the good play's there, but now we need to go on a run. And I do find that we're primed for a good run. But in terms of Liverpool, I would look at them with close eyes. I'm really keenly looking to see what is the response to a bad run. Because I think City, despite them having charges lifted over their head, what has Pep done? He's gone and said, even if we get relegated, I'm going to sign a renewal. Now, that could all be lies. We don't know. I mean, you don't take managers' quotes at face value, but at least in the public eye, stability. What did Mikel Arteta do in his first press conference when there was links of rumors away? I don't like the fact that rumor came about. I'm clearly more committed to Arsenal stability. So when I start to look at the top three kind of title challengers, Liverpool actually for me are the only club that currently have the most instability within the run-in on a future long-term basis. So I don't know how that affects players. And I have a feeling that if there is an issue, it could be more difficult to kind of have a rousing response to that difficulty.
Mm-hmm. I think that for me, the most important question, though, is in terms of obviously you've got City in the race and I still think they're the favourites. But in terms of Arsenal, Liverpool, you've got two different types of models this season. You've got one that have almost the game breakers, the ones that take their chances, but they don't have, I think, as good a system as Arsenal's. Alex, system versus game breakers. In terms of this season, what do you think is more sustainable for a title charge?
Yeah, you need both. I think.
And City have both,
Man City have both. And I think we know we have an incredible system, but the question mark is, what is the inevitable, which George and I spoke about on the last podcast, what is the inevitable thing in our team? What is the thing that it doesn't matter what you do, De Bruyne is going to be able to find Haaland from the half space, and that's going to happen. Trent is going to play that ball to Salah, and that is going to happen. No team in the world can stop it. What is our equivalent? It's like, Fabio Vieira's final ball, if he can get on the pitch. Is it Saka coming inside? Not really. So you're starting to look around, you're going, what is our inevitability? And I don't think we have one. I think in terms of the start race, as I've always said, I think we'll come second because I think you need both, and I think City have both. And as I've always said, I think system-wise, I think while Liverpool, it's almost like we're the two challenge. City have both, And Liverpool have the game breakers, but I don't think their system is quite perfect. I think we have the system that is great, but we don't have the game breakers, and that's why I think both will fall short. I still think we'll come second over Liverpool, but maybe something will change now. Maybe we'll come third to Liverpool, depending on what happens in the second half of the season. But yeah, I've always said that City have both, and until we get our game breaker, I will not put us as favourites for the title. The thing is so much of football is putting people, and we talk about it all the time, don't we? Putting people in the positions where they do their best work. Where is someone on the pitch when they are the thing that got them to this level? Emil Smith-Rowe. What got him to this? What did Steve Rowley or whatever his name is see at 10 years old? What did Francis Cajigal see him, Gabriel Martinelli, whatever? What is that thing? Put them in the positions to do that, and then we'll get there. And I think the system is so good, but sometimes doesn't allow for that. And what I'd love to see from Arteta in the back half of the season is using what we already have and then going out in the summer to add something that we don't have and that inevitable quality.
And I think another thing that Arsenal fans might love to see from Arteta is a new contract, because with all the recent rumours,
he's too good. Even in Budapest, George. In all that, I've had no hour sleep as well. I'm actually tired. But listen, I think what it is, right, is Arteta has been linked to a move to Barcelona. There was that fake rumour coming out that he had made his choice and he was going to leave. Do you know Spanish when they go ahora? And they had the breaking news. And I was like, here we go. But of course, it seemed to be fake, and Arteta confirmed it after it as well. Now that Xavi has left Barcelona, George, though, would you be surprised if Barca were to really push for Arteta and try to convince him? Because I don't see him leaving, because it makes no sense in terms of logic. A team that is more stable, that have given you more backing and can give you more backing going forwards. Why would you leave that when you're so close to something than to go to a Barcelona side, which he may have affiliation towards, but I reckon he has more towards Arsenal.
Thanks for checking out the Cannon Podcast. To hear the full episode, sign up as a YouTube member on this channel or go to patreon.com/thecannonpod.